I'm David McCarthy, and I'm going to play a role tonight of being a facilitator to encourage all of you to use this opportunity to ask questions that you have for folks that have joined us here from the county. Encourage you to frame things in a clear, concise, constructive fashion. I may summarize your question, because I recognize some people may get a little bit of a lead into the question. May summarize it, make sure that our guests who will be posing the question to understand the question and get a chance to respond to it. Fair? And we have, thanks James for being here. I appreciate it. If you have a question, just feel free. No problem at all. With that, let me introduce our guests that we have here. Before that and after that, I want to thank them. And I'd like you to thank them too, as I said to them. This may be the only positive thing they're going to hear tonight. So thank you for being here.
No, it's the only positive thing they've ever done. That's right.
Exactly. But think of it just for a moment. As a community, I suggest to you that we may be punching slightly above our weight tonight. All I did on behalf of the Voters Association, who's your host tonight, just sent out an invitation and got great and immediate response. So we're kind of punching, I think, above our weight. So thank you folks for coming out to such a small community and spending your time with us. Much appreciated. So we have, we'll start in no particular order, but we'll start with the two, several elected officials. We'll start with the people from council first. Carol, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
I'm Carol Frazee. I'm your representative for the at-large position B. And I'm just here mostly, I've been on the job 5 months now. And I'm mostly here to listen tonight, what you have to say and your concerns for the area. And also, I was talking to Joy over here, and I want to have some liaisons from the community because we hear from voices, but usually one or two, which is great. But I'd also like to hear from a lot of people in the community through email or calling me. So I invite you to do that just so I get and also if you could come up and meet me after so we have a face connection and I can get your ideas. So thanks for having us here today.
It's very easy for you folks to find your representatives on council. You go to the Whatcom County website and there's a very easy link. Find the person, just click email, and you're very accessible and responsive, so thank you for that.
Yes.
Excuse me, please go
my
forward.
name is Satpal Sidhu. I've been on the county council for 4 years. This is my 5th year, and I've been here in this community several times in the last 5 years. And again, we are here to listen and see what are the issues, or you have particular questions, please do ask. And like Carol said, we welcome when you guys send emails or something, and if there's anything that you didn't get responded to, please do ask. Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Joe? Good evening. I'm Joe Rucan. I'm with Whatcom County Public Works. I'm the Assistant Director of Public Works. I'm a county engineer, and I can hopefully answer any questions concerning your road network up here.
I'm Mike McFarland.
Road network, kind of thing, anything else, just kind of framing this for folks?
Public Works.
Public works. Okay. Sorry.
Mike McFarland, I'm the Whatcom County Parks Director. And we have facilities up here on all 4 corners of the point. And then we also coordinate by contract the 2 days of the senior program here, which the Park and Rec District pays reimburses for one of those. So.
Jack?
And I'm County Executive Jack Lowes. It's good to be here again this year. I think this might be my 8th year.
7th or 8th year.
7th or 8th year that I've come, and as many of you may know, this probably will be my last opportunity to come up as I've announced my retirement at the end of this year. It's been an honor to serve you for the last years and serve the residents of Whatcom County, but it's time after just about 20 years of an elected official in Whatcom County to hang up my elected hat and enjoy my grandkids and my wife and my family and do some different things. But it's good to be here. I have a commitment to finish strong in the next 9 months before the end of the year, before my retirement, and looking forward to hearing from you tonight. I'm going to speak on some general issues. I've asked both Mike and Joe to give small brief reports on what's going on in their world specific to public works and parks up here, and we'll open it up for some questions at the end. Looking forward to that.
Sense? So, this is the time to say thank you for coming here. Measure that remark, because Carol told me she remembers one very significant thing happened first time she was here, and that may have been the last time. She said, my God, I was actually booed on stage. I assured her she would be applauded, but I didn't assure her that she would be like booed off the stage. But at least you got the good news in the warm up. How are we doing for being able to be heard at the back? Doing okay? I'll try to keep using a loud voice if I can, because I sometimes mumble. If we start doing that, just ask us to speak up, please. Did you want to start off?
Yes, I will.
So,
Yeah, thank you.
please.
Again, thanks for allowing me to be here, allowing us to be here. Whatcom County, in my opinion, is in pretty good shape right now. We, right before the first of the year, adopted our new biennial budget for 2019 and 2020. Our 19 budget encompasses all of our general funds, which include the sheriff, prosecuting attorney, public defender, jail, planning and development services, the council offices, the executive, the auditor, the assessor, the treasurer, all of those general government parks departments, all of those general government enterprises. That budget is pushing $100 million for 2019. The rest of the budget is an additional about $135 million beyond that, so we're running a budget right now of about $235 million in 2019. Because we front-loaded our capital projects, the 2020 budget is about $220 million. Rest assured, we don't spend all of those dollars because we have cash in the bank, and because of government accounting, then you put in what you're going to spend, and then you have ending fund balances. We don't spend the entirety of that, but we do spend a large amount of that, and that encompasses all of the divisions of our government, as broad and as wide as they are. The budget that we put together is quite sustainable as it relates to the general fund operations, although I will say that the budget is considerably tighter now than what it was 7 years ago when I took over in 2012. Good news is in 2012 our general fund ending fund balance was at about $9 million, and it's pushing about $17 million right now. So even with the increases in service, increase in population, increase in costs that we've had with it, increase in revenue obviously, we have been able to put a bit of a savings account together for a rainy day moving forward. Generally, we're doing all right. We still haven't solved some of our major infrastructure issues that I've talked about with you in prior years, the main one being the jail. It's still an ongoing problem with us. Council's going to be challenged here in the next few weeks to approve a $4.2 million contract to change 162 doors within that facility. If anybody can do the math in their head really quickly, that's $26,000 a door. It's quite expensive. It's about 3 times as much as it would be if we were putting those doors into a new facility. And this is just the start of many, many, many multi-million-dollar projects that are going to be difficult for us to swallow. Fortunately, this particular project, we have the money in the bank and we're able to pay for it. Unfortunately, the next projects that we go is going to be using dollars that's going to compete against many of the items that you and the other 220,000 people in Whatcom County are desiring of, which is going to be competing on REIT dollars, banked capital dollars that we have for parks projects, for additional police protection, for all the other things that we have going on. So we have some real challenges related to that. I am pleased to announce that we hired a new facility project manager. He took a look at the exterior of the courthouse project. Our initial estimates on that was $28 to $32 million to fix the exterior of the courthouse. We've revamped that and brought that down to probably closer to a $5 to $7 million project, and then an ongoing maintenance program beyond that. So he was able to drill those dollars down substantially where they were. So that's some good news related to infrastructure. Overall, the departments are doing well. I'm very pleased with these gentlemen that we have here that have the opportunity to work with, and all of the other department managers and division leaders within our system. I would say that the sheriff obviously probably would like to be out here tonight, and as just on a personal note, I don't know if you folks know it, but his son Billy was in a very serious car accident here a few months ago, and it's been a real challenge for him and his wife Zalma to be caring for his son who had a very serious brain injury in a car accident. So your thoughts could go out to him, but he is continuing to do a good job. Deputy, it's good to have you here tonight. And your partner in crime has got the evening off right now?
Yep, that's
Good.
right.
All right, well, good enough. Good having you here, and thanks for the good work that you're doing also. As for issues up at the point, Planning and Development Services is looking forward to the opportunity working with the community to go through our development codes and our comprehensive plans related to Point Roberts. The economic development piece of that's docketed at this particular time, and we're looking forward to engaging you on that. It's going to take time, and it's going to take community effort. We're not going to be able to be mind readers with you folks, so I encourage all of you as it relates to the work that's going to be done in the future is to stay involved, be vocal, and try to come together with a collaborative vision for what you would like your home, your area of the county to be. So we're looking forward to that in the planning department. The development and the work that's coming in from individual property owners is somewhat proprietary. I'm not going to get into that, but I do know that there's a fair amount of activity from property owners and developers at the point that are engaging the planning department, and I think that the future is relatively bright if we can, the developers can put the dollars together and the community can come together and we can get these things permitted. So I'm looking forward to that. With tonight, I'm sure that we want to talk about some of the long-range issues. So the solid waste collection may come up for discussion. That's fine. I'm willing to answer questions related to that. We've got the parks and public works here, and really, I'm interested in hearing from you and answering your specific questions. So at this time, I would like to turn it over to Mike McFarland, our Parks Director, have him give an overview of the last few years related to the point, some of the challenges that we've had with the dock, and I'll add to that if we need to, work that we're doing at the Lighthouse Marine Park, Lily Point, and so on and so forth. So Mike, turn it over to you for a couple minutes.
Okay. Just a couple things. First of all, I'll start off with, as I mentioned, we have all 4 park areas, and this summer we have teed up. We have a new playground that's going in at Lighthouse Marine Park. The playground's here. We're just going to get the crew up here at the end of this month. They'll be starting on that, and that'll be installed at the end of the new deck that we have up there. We are going to be re-siding the restroom building that sits there on the deck. We'll probably be stripping off the old, putting on the new up there. And then we have about $18,000 worth of grills, picnic tables, and fire rings that we have ordered for the park that we'll be replacing both the campground as well as out in the park area itself. Those are the new construction and capital projects that we have. The one thing that we will be doing is we'll be removing the dock sections there. And that was a long process. It was a very difficult decision for our staff, our particular design development director, who had worked quite a while not only on the design with the engineers and the contractor and that, trying to find a structure that worked, working for a number of years and trying to get the proper permits there, but also went down and actually obtained the matching grant funds in that for that project. What we did was when we had the dock when it was first put in, there was some concern expressed by the engineers in terms of the type of design and the design elements. We're dealing with a very environmentally sensitive site. There's an eelgrass bed that sits off there. It's a area where the surf smelts spawn literally all year long. And then we have the orcas out there. So we had to work with those design elements, and on our permitting, that dock system that we had could only, a certain small portion of it could actually touch the bottom when the tide was out. That was challenging because that portion that touched would have to support the rest of the dock structure. And it's an exposed site, and originally, going years back when that dock was proposed there was supposed to have been a pile pier that was put out there on both sides. And for whatever reason, that was never really constructed, so it essentially is an unprotected site. We moved forward with the dock design. It has to be pulled out in the wintertime because of winter storms. The site in that type of dock wouldn't take that. And so as a result of that, not only did it have to be fairly lightweight so it could be removed, it also has to have light penetration. And several years ago we went around with that with some of our docks that we had, our new structures that we're putting in at Lake Samish, where the regulations changed because of eelgrass beds. You can't have a solid deck on there anymore like the old one was. You have to allow light penetration, so predatory fish and the aquatics underneath there aren't impacted. So there are a lot of things that we had to juggle and work with, including a limited budget. The state was only going to give us so much money. Part of that was predicated on the type of design and what was available in that program. Another part was it was very hard to compete because of the number of launches that we had recorded on an annual basis. It's a competitive grant, and as you can imagine, there are many, many boat launches throughout the state that receive much higher numbers. And as a matter of fact, in 2017, we had about 280 launches for the entire season there at the park, which is pretty low in comparison to some of our other facilities where they can get that many launches in a single week. So there were a lot of things that we did. We did get the money. We had an engineering firm that tweaked the design several times trying to get it fit the conditions. We tried it roughly for 3 years. We had noticed last summer there were cracks, stress fractures, a number of elements on there from the pounding when the tide goes out, from the wave action up and down. During that time, the firms were contacted to discuss what the situation was and how to mitigate that. And what came back was basically a fix that might address that. It was about $50,000 to make those repairs on that dock, with no guarantee that that wouldn't happen or we'd have a similar failure of that particular dock. So the decision, we presented that to the county council, explained to them exactly what was happening to the dock, and gave a history of what was going on. And then our recommendation was, because we could not get a guarantee that that wouldn't occur after a couple months, obviously it's exposed, we couldn't get any guarantees from the engineering firms that had worked on the dock design itself. Our recommendation was to remove it from the site and repurpose it in some waters where we don't have those severe wave and wind actions on there. So right now at this particular point we will be cleaning the docks, loading them up, and bringing them back to the parks office, to our yard there. We'll go through and work on what modifications we need and look at other sites within the county park system where those dock sections can be used. The launch ramp remains, the piles will remain, and there's some activity that'll be coming in and out of there with Public Works using the barge for some projects and some work, as well as the toxic waste program and that, using that as a barge. And the thought is that the public, if you do want to launch there, the ramp is there, but you won't have the boarding dock there. So that's kind of where we left it on there. We just don't have an unlimited source of funds to be able to address that. Nor is the state willing to put more money into that particular site on that type of boating facility there. As far as other projects go on the point, over the last 12 years we have spent about $6 million on acquisition of lands at Point Roberts, and another 1.4 million on park improvements. They've included everything from the new deck that's at the park itself, renovation of the shower and restroom building in the campground. We've done asphalt work and walkway work at Lighthouse Marine Park. We spent 400-some thousand on development for Lily Point for the parking, roadway, restroom, septic, and trails in that particular facility. And one of the high priority projects when we started a while back was to get a trail down at Monument Park down to the beach down there. And so that was hired out because of the challenges trying to get down that gorge. It's a high maintenance trail, but it is one that we have that goes down in there. So that's kind of what we're teed up for this summer, and a little bit of the background in terms of where we've been.
Thanks, Mike. Joe, you want to give a brief report on public work projects?
Sure. Point Roberts. Anybody have a guess how many road miles, public road miles are on Point Roberts? I know. I looked it up. Anybody want to guess?
50.
How many public
we have
road
150?
miles on Point Roberts?
32. He says 50.
I heard 32. 35.68. So about 36 miles. 50 was a good guess. 1.42 miles of that is unpaved, which is a little under 4% of the network, which is about the same as the network countywide. Anybody guess how many roads we have, how many miles we have countywide? About 1,940 miles. The number that we always surprise people with is bridges. We have 162 bridges. We also have a ferry. So Point Roberts, once again, you have 35.6 miles, 68 miles out here. This, you've probably, hopefully you've noticed, that you've seen public works crews out here a little bit more than you have in past years. We started last summer preparing the roads out here because this summer you're going to see a lot of us. We're going to be up here this summer pre-leveling and then chip sealing over 23 miles of your 36 miles. So what I called it chip sealing, the technical engineering term is a bituminous surface treatment. A lot of you would know it as oil and rock. So we have, it's exactly what it says. It's sealing the roadway so water doesn't get into the subgrade. It also provides a new surface with improved traction and grade. We'll be doing that. When you do that chip seal, it only follows, it doesn't take out ruts or anything, it just seals the surface. So before we do that chip seal, we come in here and we'll lay down about 4 miles of thin asphalt in places where it needs it, where you have ruts, dips, or we have to reestablish the crown. We'll come in and we'll lay thin asphalt, then we'll come back and do the chip seal over it. For about 2 weeks, it'll look like we turned your road into a gravel road. All these roads, all these roads have been chip sealed before. All these roads, this is how they've been maintained for decades. So if you look out there and you look, hey, it looks like asphalt. That's a chip seal surface from the last time we did it. There'll be a lot of traffic control. There'll be a lot of slow signs in between when we put the gravel down. There's about a 2-week period where we're letting you drive on it, get it in. We're sweeping the loose rock and then we come back and paint it. But there's a period in there where you need to go slow. You don't want to be kicking up rocks and breaking windshields. Not so much of an issue here where you have 25-mile-an-hour roads. Bigger issue in other parts of the county where 50-mile-an-hour roads and they start kicking up rock. But you will see when we're done, you'll have nice new surface, you'll have nice new painting. At the same time, we would like to make sure that all the shoulders have been cleaned and re-rocked. So last summer we went through what we call shoulder picked, all the shoulders. Got all of the material, deleterious material that's grown up on the shoulders, because we can't spray up here. In other parts of the county, we keep a 1 foot area off the pavement free so the water can go off. We can't spray up here, so we have to come in and mechanically hand pick all that material off. We've done a lot of that this last summer. We still have some to do. We had our tree crews up here doing as much maintenance as they can so that when we come in here and do the chip sealing, we do a nice job and leave you hopefully for a number of years with a good road network. There will be times where you might have questions. You will be times where you might have concerns, and I'll be leaving my number here for any, and you can use, I'll leave my cards. I also have the list of the roads that will be chip sealed that I can leave if you're interested in your own particular road. Beyond that, you'll see the asphalt trucks up here in May. We'll start laying the asphalt. In June, we will start with the chip seal. It is highly weather dependent. It can't be wet, it can't be cold. So we are watching the weather every day. That should go on until about mid to late July. And then you'll see a lot of sweeping, cleaning up, and striping trucks. So I apologize now for the inconvenience, but this fall you will have the nicest, most maintained roads in the county.
Thanks, both gentlemen, for that. I'll comment on two things. The dock situation was a difficult decision to make. It's one that I concur with. I did meet and make comments earlier in the year that I thought that we were going to give it one more try, but folks, honestly, we went through and looked at what I went through, looked at it, talked with Mike, reviewed what was going to happen with it, and all I could do was spend $50,000 with it, and I could guarantee it possibly 24 hours if we were going to have another weather event the next day. And it just doesn't make sense financially to continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect the same results. And we truly, through our permitting process, can't go in and put a fortified structure in there. It's just not possible in today's day and age. So I do apologize for the confusion that I made to people at the point, but it is a decision. Council didn't take formal action on it, but they were made aware of it. The ultimate decision on this one administratively falls on my shoulders, but I firmly believe it's really the only choice that we have, because we just don't have unlimited budget to go in and for that many launches to be able to do that when I can't guarantee the results. Our engineers can't guarantee the results. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions if anybody has any regarding that moving down the road. As it relates to Public Works, I'd like to thank them for all the work they're doing. In 2012, we were doing about 60 to 70 miles worth of overlay per year. We're pushing 90 miles right now, so we've really upped our game in the last 6 or 7 years. Our roads are one of our most valuable assets, and keeping them well maintained has been a commitment that I've had and that Public Works has. We've done a lot of work on it. I'm pleased that we're able to come up here and do 20-some miles of the roads up here. It does cost a few $1,000s more than it does down in there, but you guys are worth it, and I don't worry about that end of it, but we have to continue to put things on a rotation basis and make it all happen. I'm sure I forgot some issues. We've got a number of things that have come up in emails over the last few days. I'm sure some of you are here that have sent those and looking forward to asking specific questions. And so I would turn it over now, and we got about a half an hour's worth of presentation here, and go for questions and answers for a while, and we'll try to do our best and come up with some answers. And we may end up having to say on some of them is, you know, we don't know, we'll get back to you. But we're looking forward to facilitating the question and answer period.
Thank you for the update. I think we're better informed now than we were before you arrived, so thank you very much for that. And I know I checked in advance, you don't really want to stand up and say anything else, but you're happy to answer any questions that may come forward. So we have try to get out of here by 7:30 if we can, so there's lots of time, lots of questions. Allison and Kenny are going to help with regards to identifying folks that have their hands up. What we want to be able to do is to go around and give as many people as possible an opportunity to ask questions. So if you would please work with us on that. I'd like to avoid a circumstance where I have to cut somebody off because they're attempting to establish a one-on-one dialogue. It may be very, very important to the person asking the question, but not so much to the rest of us. So think about your questions, give them a chance to answer it, and I'd like them to move on and give another person to ask a question. And we'll certainly recycle back to people, but we'd like to give everybody an opportunity to raise their questions. Allison, Kenny, you guys are good? Where do we want to start? Oh, and I'd like to, please, I'm a big fan of people standing up and saying who you are. I'm not a big fan of somebody saying, I live here, I don't want to tell you who I am, I want to have you on a question. So please stand up, tell us who you are so we know who's asking a question. Go ahead.
It's more in the range of a 2-minute announcement,
Okay.
but I'm so glad you're here.
And who are you?
Well, my name is Arlene Bellis, and I'm a board member on the Point Roberts Conservation Society. And I'm here to talk today about the restoration of the APA tree canopy. And it'll just take me about 2 minutes. You're saving me a trip to Whatcom County Council to go over this. Introduction. Okay. The community members and the Point Roberts Conservation Society have been meeting since the devastation to our scenic route and specifically our APA road canopy trees during December 2018 storm. And I remember I met some of you because I was one of the sponsors for the Conservation Society that initiated it. And Public Works was so terrific to work with getting our scenic loop. We've already talked with Brian Walker and Kelly at in a meeting out at the scene of the crime out there about a month ago. There with the Public Works Department and about our plans. We'll be gathering, they informed us we need to gather petitions and other ways to show that our community would be in favor of planting more maple trees there and trying to heal that scar. We'll be gathering petitions also and have an email address where people can make comments as the next couple of months go along. We'll be asking, when we have this, we'll present it to the council to show what I expect to be overwhelming support to use just a small amount, relatively speaking, of money to replant those trees along, so that future generations, yes, a lot of us won't be around to enjoy them get very big, but so that future generations can be inspired by the beauty of that spot. And we'll soon be in touch with Public Works to get an estimate of what this will cost. Just a wild guess, 20 or 30 trees, maple trees, from the approved list. We have the list. We've been told we have to consider that. And then we'll be asking for further information, input from the community. Okay, last thing. In this room, it was a minimal amount of money from TBD funds. Remember, we get $9,000 a month from this penny a gallon gasoline fund, and we have over $1,100,000 in there. I'm wild guess, 10, 20,000 to do this job at the most. In this room, how many people would support replanting the trees on the devastated APA canopy? Majority. Okay, thank you, that's it.
Okay, thank you for that. And actually, I know you didn't ask a question, but Joe's prepared to address that. So thanks for your question.
Yeah, thank you. Kelly Maple is the Public Works crew leader for vegetation, so he does our tree trimming, and Brian Walker is the engineer that we have assigned to represent Public Works at your PRCC. The TBD funds can be used for transportation purposes, and that would be very similar to the what the council approved to allow a contract for landscaping maintenance on Tyee. So it certainly would be an available use. There's other potential funding sources out there beyond that also. I think it's a neat thing. I think, you know, the corridor of trees that is really beautiful. I do want to just mention one thing, because these are your neighbors here. Right-of-way is really important. Right-of-way is not property. It's exactly what it says it is. It's a right of way. It's a right. It's a piece of paper in a vault someplace. We don't own the property. We don't own any dirt. So what we own is what we've built, and we built the road and the shoulders. Even if it's in the right-of-way, half of my front yard is right-of-way, but the county hasn't improved it yet. It's my yard. You can't come in and have a picnic there and say it's right-of-way. You're trespassing. So in this issue, what we need to determine is who owns those trees. Just because in their right-of-way doesn't mean we own them.
We know Seabright owns them.
Okay, so that's going to be one of the issues, is for the county to replant those trees, we'd be expanding what the council has deemed as open right-of-way. Right now, that it's only opened what we built to the back of the ditch. So the issue is not going to be planting trees or it's going to be working with your neighbors to assert that right-of-way over their private property. And, you know, that will be the thing that we'll deal with. But as far as being able to plant the trees, that would be, I see that as a valuable use, because it's very similar to the contract that the PRCAC has for the maintenance of the landscape and that kind.
And we expect Seabright to be, happen that we're going to enhance.
Thanks, Joe.
And we'll be supportive of doing what we can to make that happen.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anything else? Please.
To the parks.
We all know.
Brian Calder.
Thank you, Brian. We all know who you are, but it's good to share.
About 6.5, 7 years ago, a group of us contractors went down and saw Ben Park, but White House Park, when he said he deemed the dock had failed. So we asked him if we could bring our machines down. We took 2 excavators down. There were 9 of us. We flipped them on their backs. Said we can fix this within 2 weekends. Yeah. We had guys to do the welding and the brackets, and the marina was donating the wood and so on and so on. We had it back in the water in 2 weeks. Ben was ecstatic. It was then the manager. Came back at us 2 weeks later and said, oh, downtown has said, no, it has to be engineered. And so I think it took 2.5, 3 years to engineer this edifice that arrived. We fell right on the ground laughing when we saw it come off the trucks. Any moron could see that wasn't going to work anywhere in our 3 shores around Point Robert. Who's held accountable for that disaster? Absolute disaster. Someone should pay for that.
So the question is, accountability for the decision that was made that didn't work.
How many people were fired?
So where's the accountability? Do you want to address that? Thanks, Brian.
All you say is that the marine engineer designed the new dock there based upon what the parameters were on the site, what the permitting requirements were. The old dock legally could not be in the water. It had unencapsulated foam underneath it. Some of the material that was used in there was no longer permitted, and it couldn't just be simply fixed or bolted together. Our crew had looked at it. The wooden portions were rotted. When we decided that we were going to go the route on a new dock, we made it available. We had some folks say, we'd like to come up here and salvage pieces and the lumber out of that. Nothing took part of that because that material and that dock was so deteriorated at that particular time, there was nothing salvaged on
We
it. 'Cause
inspected it, we know what it was.
Yeah, well, we had given permission. If you thought there was something on there, we've gone through our finance department that there was salvageable on it, you are welcome to take it apart and use it. We could not.
Put it together and put
Yeah.
it back in, it was there for
Well,
30 years.
Well, what I'm saying is that the floats on there were not legal to put back in the water.
It changed the law.
Thank you.
Heidi.
Heidi,
Thank you very much.
for those of us that don't know you, Heidi,
Heidi Baxter, been here a long time. Stay on the dock subject. I'm a voter.
presentation or question?
Question, I'm gonna talk to these guys. They're here. Thank you for coming. Engineer, we need a dock. You have $50,000 to fix the old one. I agree. The other one didn't work. Fixing it doesn't make sense. But I'm a voter, and maybe your numbers were low for using it because I and many others moved their boats elsewhere because we couldn't use it for years for so many reasons. We're a community on the ocean. We really need a dock. There's a dock. Smelts can be there. Light permeable. It's a pier, and it's got a floating end that can be seasonal. You have $50,000. Let's start the fund to build the pier. I know you don't have it now, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but if we start the fund, eventually a long-term plan's a good idea. Let's get a dock. That's for the engineer. Here. Garbage service, you know what, I have a problem with garbage, I'm a self-hauler. Jack, I wrote you a couple times, thank you for responding. We did a community event the other day to get more recycling. We took community questions of getting better, more recycling. Washington State's zero mandate, let's get zero. Here's some of the things. As a self-hauler, and you'll notice that when people have a choice in our community, we have a high percentage of self-hauling. And I think, Mr. Sadhu, you were working on that.
Sure.
There's a survey, a second survey, similar to the county survey, shows how many people self-haul. Self-haul because of scheduling. Here's my recycling unit. We can work like Lopez Island, and it works. We need 7 days a week for recycle unit that we can self-sort and be part of the solution. I think I've got everything. Tags could also help us for the fee that we pay, because I don't use curbside, and my amount has triples. Okay, thanks.
You can come back, thank you.
She came with dogs.
Thank
I don't know if you can
Hi, I'm Richard Dennis, homeowner here at Point Roberts. And as I understood your discussion about the docks, the decision was predicated on two things. Inability to get a guarantee from either the engineer or the contractors or some kind of financial guarantee, and the lack of use or the small amount of use of the number of boats launching from there. My question is, are those two the best metrics you could have come up with? Because how many guarantees do you get from contractors when public works projects in Whatcom County? And aren't there other uses for that dock? I know there are. Other uses for the dock besides boat launch, for people wanting to stand there and fish or stand there and sightsee, that are very important there. And were those kinds of uses also considered?
I'll just say
Since you got it back, just to make sure everybody's heard the question. Two things predicated the decision, lack of a guarantee going forward, and limited usage. And I think what you were asking was there other potential decision criteria that were considered in considering the dock and carrying it forward, correct?
You know, if there was only 100 launches a year and we could put $50,000 into it and I had relative assurance that we were 3, 4, 5, 6 years of good solid use with the dock, I wouldn't have had a problem with that. So usage was not the decision that it was made on. The ultimate decision for me was the one-day guarantee or the next big wave guarantee that we have. And, you know, I can't unring the bell with what happened in future years. I understand what Mike was saying. I probably understand the challenging of permitting and the obligations that we have of a government to follow all of the rules and regulations, and changing the law is something that we don't do. We're a sub-agency of the state. That happens at the state level when it comes to shorelines. So the lack of usage is not wasn't the defining decision. It was the money and the lack of guarantee of success. I appreciate the design here, but the double pier system and the dock like this is what we worked 3 years to try to get the permits on, and we couldn't get there. So that doesn't mean that we're done. That doesn't mean that there might be other alternatives within the point, opportunities with the new marina owners down the road to come up with a better way of launching boats and to provide different ways of doing it. With the challenges that we're having on all of the shorelines and the obligations that we have for the marine environment with it, is becoming more and more challenging to make. So thank you for asking the question. That's the answer that I'm bringing forward today.
Could you address the guarantee issue? How many guarantees do you get? And what kind of standard was applied here versus that's applied to other projects?
Well, if we're doing a road project, we have bonding from the contractors that they're going to perform, and that performance bonds with it that last for 2, 3, 4 years. We're doing building end of it. We have standard performance guarantees and construction guarantees through that last years. Not all of them are good, but you know, we do have those at this particular time. We don't have any guarantees. We've lost that opportunity on this one, and every dollar that we're putting out is, we don't have a partner standing alongside of us, a professional standing alongside of us that's saying is that we're going to guarantee this thing. All they're saying is that we aren't going to guarantee it. If you do this, this is the best that we believe you can do under the permitting for it, but we aren't going to stand beside it. And if it busts tomorrow, that's your problem, that's not our problem. So yes, on other projects, we do have a lot better of a guarantee, because we, a lot of times, put surety bonds, performance bonds along with the action, so.
Mr. Rose, nice to have you back.
Good to be here.
I'm one of the directors of the recently established nonprofit, the Independent Business Council here. In the last 3 or 4 months, we've made quite a few public records requests of all of your departments.
Right.
Most notably Public Works and Planning and Development, and the assessor and treasurer, so that we could gather data to do a proper assessment for economic evaluation. I heard you mention earlier in your initial words that you look forward to looking into economic development and engaging on that. So I'm curious about 2 specific things. They shouldn't be too terribly difficult to answer. Since you came into your position 8 years ago, what has been the primary economic strategy and or game plan that has been utilized for Point Roberts? It certainly couldn't be the 2001 Strategic Economic Development Report, which in fact was not a game plan at all. It was a report. It was never actually accepted and or revised over the course of the last 20 years, let alone the last 8 years. So if economic development is now a concern and a consideration, why wasn't it for the last 8 years, let alone the last 20 years? And since the county itself does its own comprehensive economic development report, and I think it's on average every 3 to 5 years that it's updated and revisited and revised, why would not Point Roberts be given the same consideration? This is critical to anything and everything Point Roberts does, because it is a closed community. And as the paper, the All Point Bulletin pointed out from Mr. Robbins' editorial, It's a big carve-out. There's lots of rationale for why things are going away. Can't be redone, can't be paid for, can't be looked at this time. But for 20 years, 8 years, call it 3 years, call it 5 months, there hasn't been one word of economic development, except for tonight. Why is it now that we're beginning to discuss something that typically takes 2 to 3 years to put together in order to stay current? We're looking at a global economic recession that is staring us in the face. And we get the worst end of the trickle-down in Whatcom County. And Whatcom County gets hit harder than most other places just because that's the way the economy works. That's why you said yourself, the economic outlook's pretty good. It ain't great, and it's not even good. It's pretty good for Whatcom County. It's a lot less pretty good here. What have you been using as that strategy and game plan since you came into office? And what will you be looking to either revise or start fresh for economic development? Because all things spring from economic development. All things. Every department, every consideration, every piece of data we have looked at since we requested it through public record. And I look forward to it.
Thank you, Tom. There's basically 2 questions there. One, what's your primary economic strategy? And what's the strategy for keeping it current? A lot of places do it every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, Whatcom County keeps what we call a comprehensive economic development strategies list, and we update that every year. Truly what that is a checklist that's required by the state of Washington, that it's a project list, and then we do a strategy that's of a global nature every 5 years or so that happens. Truly, you're correct when it comes to Point Roberts and the work that has been done. Is that I have had the expectation. I've had people in my office in the last 3 years that have talked about economic development in the Point, and I have encouraged that group to be self-starting and self-motivated, and to be the leaders in making that happen. Interestingly enough, a couple years ago, I had a person come in and said, I want an economic development strategy in Point Roberts. I want to make it the next Hong Kong. Okay? And I'm going, well, golly, we've got a goal here. Is the rest of the community on board with the Point becoming Hong Kong? And they couldn't answer that. I says, well, why don't you get the chamber together, get the various people together, and start having a community conversation and building towards coming back to Whatcom County with a more of a self-governance plan as it relates to it. I haven't heard, and I'm talking directly, and it's no disrespect to the people that I talk to, but I can sense that you're believing that it hasn't been a point of conversation and that we haven't done it. But we've had the conversation, and truly, our planning department and our community, the dollars that we've invested into with the port and with the city of Bellingham in our economic development team is we're ready to go, and yes, we're ready to start building that. How many of you here want Point Roberts to be Hong Kong?
That's not the point at all. That's not.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to answer the question here. But the point is, what does the community want? We want to engage with you, and we need you to engage with us to be able to build that forward. We're at a point that we can do that. We've got the wheels in motion. Obviously, it's later than what you would like to see, but we have the people, we have the planning staff, we have it on our agenda. I believe that we have a council that would be very interested in working with that through the legislative process to be able to make that happen. And that relates to your comp plan, your zoning maps, the vision that you have for the Point. It's not going to be my vision. It's not going to be any of us folks' vision, it needs to be your vision. This is your home right here. So 20 years ago, I wasn't around. 7 years ago, I'll take credit for the last 7 years. But yes, we haven't got a whole long ways on that. But it's something that's needed to be done, and I believe that we've got the community motivation to make it. So thanks for asking the question, and move forward.
Can I add one?
You sure may.
Yeah, I was going to say that let's move forward with that. I understand your question. What we have done in last year, we formed a new business and commerce advisory committee. The county never had a business advisory committee. We had ag committee, we have housing committee, we have planning commission, but there was no voice from the business directly to the county. So we were able to accomplish that, and we have committed extra funds from the county and the administration to the port. We have now hired a higher level economic development executive, you probably know, through the port, because we had ADO and there would be 2 middle level people who were just answering phones and answering inquiries. And we wanted to be proactive for the economic development. And this is not about Point Robert, this is whole county. And that part was missing. I think we are together, administration and the council are looking into that, and this is a real question, because if we don't have economic development, that's what we were talking in the car, that if somebody wants to come and live in Point Roberts, great, but they have to really like to just live here. But there must be some kind of economic activity so that young people can go get a job and say, I want to not leave to the point, I want to just build a house here. But that opportunity is missing. Somehow we have to think together, and I would like to invite you that engage with their business advisory committee. It's a citizen committee, and another thing we have done, any people from the government have no vote. Only people from the business. There are 11 people from the business. They are the only one who have vote. There are other 8 or 10 people from the county and city and other places or the university. They don't vote. So we are trying to bring it to the business people to take that lead and lead us which way we should go. So please engage with that.
Might I just ask a follow-up question?
Yes, please.
Insofar as the economic development is concerned, it seems to me that it's a bit of a cart before the horse scenario that we're presently situated with, whereby the narrative has been and remains to be, we need to change our zoning so as to offer us a better chance at economic success. But without a strategy for economic success, any efforts to change, update, revise, or alter zoning is premature. So the process through which this economic development typically takes place is rather lengthy. But if there were a specific Point Roberts agenda for accelerating economic development so that we could very quickly, at least in terms of typical timelines, address the zoning, even if it's concurrently, we would be on a much better track. If we put the cart before the horse, we'll have to revisit it after 2 and 3 years. It may not be compatible. And that's what I would put to you as a council member, to understand it's a very, very tricky situation. And I appreciate that this new body is made up mostly of this, entirely, at least voting lines, of business members. Because I think they'll relate immediately.
The questions and everything, I invite you to reach out and I will get you in touch with that. But I personally would be happy to discuss with you what are the things we can do for the point different from the other part of the county.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the questions.
And then Jim Julius.
Hi, I'm Dave. Okay. I'm not going to rag on you about a boat dock. That didn't work. We all know it didn't work. Here's my question though. First, or actually comment first. I think that your launches are very inaccurate, and I only say this because it's on the honor system. We spend a lot of time at Lighthouse Park. We go out every sunset. We live here year-round. A lot of people don't even know that they're supposed to pay. Everybody thinks it's free. So your launches are only if somebody puts money in an envelope and puts it in the box at the door. Most people don't do it. So it's very off, I can guarantee that. Secondly, my other question about that, we're not gonna have our dock back. Last year when our dock was pulled out, the ramp was no longer cleared. Because according to the people who work at the parks, clearing the boat ramp was part of the dock contract. So if we're not gonna have our dock, are we gonna get our boat ramp cleared? Because we still will use it, but we can't use it when it's clear. And we need a four-wheel drive truck and a second truck to pull it out because we sunk 3 feet because no one's cleared it all summer long.
And yes, we will try to keep the launch clear. It takes a lot of hours to do, and there's a tremendous amount of offshore transport that's coming along that shoreline that's contributing to the amount of materials there. Aaron and the park staff down there try to keep that open. When it was not done before, I think there were some folks that assisted with that or volunteered to help come and move some of that, but we've had that conversation. Yes, the ramp should still be available. Now, I can't
Obviously, it
guarantee
has to
every
do with
single day
funding.
that we're going to...
Obviously, it has to do with funding. I get it. But are we able to have volunteers help with that?
I think we are.
I think.
Well, it depends on what you're asking in terms of what the volunteers are going to be
So, Brian
doing.
Calder has a machine. He can clear the boat ramp. Are we allowed to?
Our permit allows us to keep it cleared there. So you'd be working under volunteering and working under our permit.
Do we have to be union?
No.
Where would the follow-up go to that? That's a good question. There's an offer here, I think, can the community get engaged to assist your staff keeping that clean? Because they typically clean only at low tide. How would
If you
follow up?
want to send a proposal or something formal, just send it to us. We have a volunteer program and we can make that happen.
Through you directly or through Aaron?
Right to the Parks and Rec Department.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Thank you.
Regarding
Hey Jim, who are you?
for improving business.
Hey Jim?
Roberts.
Jim?
Huh?
Introduce yourself to everybody, there's maybe a couple people who don't know who you are.
I'm Jim Julius Realty. Years ago, people stopped in at my office looking for Point Roberts. They said, where is it? We're from Toronto. Big friends of ours in Vancouver said, go to Steveston and go to Point Roberts. And I watched them, they said, where's Point Roberts? I said, this is it. And I started thinking about it. And I thought, we need something to compete with Steveston as a waterfront community. So I came up with the Whale Bay Village after visualizing whale boats going by, 3 masters, and that sort of got going. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon there. I went before the Port of Bellingham and presented a paper asking for a kids fishing dock down here on the west side. Tom Glenn told me that fabulous idea. He said 12 feet wide, go up to minus 10 feet. Well, we don't need that, maybe we need 70 feet. So we have a dock for kids to go out and drop their hook with a worm on it or board. We do need a big boat launch down there. That sort of took over at my What's Up Dock project for the end of Gulf Road. The county owns the property out to probably lower low water. Probably one of the most important things that has to be done with Point Roberts right now is to protect the entrance. There's a 50-foot green belt from the border down, well, I suggested it be down to the end of the woods where you run into fields. But they made this green belt, not a setback, but green belt all the way down to APA Road. That property coming in for the first, where the trees are and stuff, should be bought by county parks as greenbelt. When the zoning went in 88, the acreage over on Johnson Road and Mill Road, that 160 acres or so were behind the fire hall, connected to the Conservancy property just west of Customs by that one green belt along the south side of Johnson Road. So that's something to consider. Lighthouse Park. You used to be able to drive around the bend and see all the islands. Now you can't see a thing because it's all overgrown. County parks planted jack pines because they're about the only thing that will grow. Now we got blackberries and jack pines and alders, whatever. That should be brushed out. What else was I going to say? I can go on. Trees. The lady was talking about ATA Road where the trees came down. They came down in 1962 with Hurricane Frida. Everything got flattened, and those are leftovers, and now they're down. That used to be the prettiest street, half mile, quarter mile in Whatcom County, because the trees came together, and maybe in the late autumn you would look down there and it would be red with pollen, and look, you felt like you're driving through a bowl of Jell-O, strawberry. I had some other things for that.
To me, Jim, like what you were expressing was, we've got significant assets here that are part of our park program. And is there a way to consider using those assets in a way that enhances our overall community, perhaps even has some relationship to the economic plan? We've got a great asset, let's look at using it to engage and expand the community. More visitors, for those that live here, get more pleasure out of it. Is that kind of generally what you were suggesting?
Yeah, I think so. The dock that is off the west end of Golf Course. I remember going down there when I was 5 and visiting Iverson. They built themselves pile driver. They had 2 trees, big planks across, modeling engine with a winch, and they built that dock. Brian could probably do the same thing.
So I think what we've got is a suggestion, not necessarily a question. Anybody want to address it or just appreciate the suggestion and consider it?
If you would take the time, sir, and if you would want to, and articulate that into either a letter or a email to us, all of your ideas, and we'd be more than happy to consider those as we move forward. You listed off a lot of items around the point, and
We spent $90,000 establishing that there is eelgrass there, and that the pilings are rotten, which we already knew. They're perched there. Kids can go fishing.
Please.
Thank you.
My name's Pat Harper, permanent resident of Point Barber. One of the things about the development of businesses and stuff on Point Barber, in your comprehensive plan, you talk about the rural character of outlining areas in the county, and about the ability to have cottage industries and business and home, where like you have people with skill sets of welding or pottery and stuff can work out of their homes and sell their products in some place in the business district, but you can't afford to have a home and a business building at the same time, usually. And that would, a lot of communities that are kind of arts and crafty kind of areas have this available. It's almost impossible to get a, cottage industry at Point Barber. And the other issue is, I think it's commendable that you're going to start chip sealing the roads and stuff like that. You could put a skin patch down ahead of that to make sure things are level and cure the water seepage that's going in. It's going to destroy your subgrade. You've got to protect it. But your ditches are horrendous. They look like tank traps. And I was wondering why don't you use arch culverts? You can get 24-inch arch culverts. We did it in the Forest Service for years, passing as much water or more than an 18-inch culvert.
Sure.
You could raise the grade in those ditches and still pass the water. And you're a lot of places on the point where you got a 12-inch culvert or smaller culverts going down, and then you got a, somebody put a 12-inch culvert in and you got a 24-inch up here. I mean, that makes no sense. You have a nomograph. Maybe you have a nomograph and you calculate the water flow in gallons. per hour based on the annual rains and all that, because that's what we used to do in the Forest Service in sizing pipes.
Q equals CIA, my favorite equation, yeah.
Okay.
That's for calculating runoff of an area.
Hey, Joe, I don't know, because I could hear clearly, I don't know if people could look at the iPad. So, you were first just talking about suggestions that we've got an opportunity perhaps to capitalize on utilizing more of our private homes to try to create a cottage industry. I know that's relevant for 2072, which is being worked on. But your specific question was an observation that the level of maintenance in our ditches is not consistent to the community, and that there's not a level of consistency with regard to the drainage. Some have maybe an 8-inch, some have a 12-inch, or an 18-inch culvert. And would that be a benefit? Is that something that the road crew
Yeah,
could consider? Is that correct?
If you size it according.
Sure, yeah, draining, I tell people, we don't build roads, we build drainage projects. And by the way, when we're done, there'll be some asphalt you can drive on. Road, public works, we deal with drainage, and we're done with that, we deal with drainage. So I appreciate the question. Ditches are very important. They're not only providing conveyance, they provide water quality treatment. That water is going through that biomaterial, biofiltration. It's being exposed to the sunlight, so any hydrocarbons are coming off. Once you go to an enclosed drainage system, and we can do that, and there's times where that's appropriate, especially if when convenience becomes an issue. You might have a thing you're picturing that would be very appropriate. In general, an enclosed system is going to be far more expensive for us to maintain. A ditch, we can come with a grader and grade it out, and we can mow it. And ditching, I mentioned we have 1,000 miles of road. We have over 2,000 miles of ditch. We spend a lot of time ditching. This summer you will see improvement in your ditches because we're up here, we're going to be doing that. So I'm kind of talking around it, but there may be options. We can certainly look at that, but in general, an open ditch is going to be cheaper, more efficient, and you can see when it fails. When a subground pipe fails, you don't quite know what's going on until it fails. A ditch, you can see a problem occurring. But once again, there's many times where the closed drainage system is the best option.
Do you have a quick supplemental, Pat?
Yeah, I'm with you, I'm totally against closed systems. But I'm talking about the pipes that have to be put in the ditch for crossing and things like that. And if you used arch pipes, you could raise the grade.
Yes.
Raise the grade, and that'd also give you more opportunity if the ditch wasn't so deep. You could provide for walking areas a lot easier.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah, and we could certainly look at doing things like that.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the depth of the ditch, this is really big when you go into the agricultural part of the county. You drive around large parts of the county, we have really deep ditches. That ditch is not that deep to drain the road. It's that deep to drain all the fields around it. So a lot of times you look at the ditch and it's really deep, and it's because not only is it collecting, once again, that road, it's collecting all the property around it. And then you have conveyance issues. And yeah, we have issues all the time where once the right-of-way, once the water leaves our right-of-way, it's no longer ours, it's now someone else's, and they will do weird things with the drainage. And we'll back it, so we have to be their neighbor and work as a neighbor with them. That's a very common thing.
Still, you ought to trap any passing car or pedestrian.
Well, we take it real serious. I was born and raised in this county. I became the county engineer because I grew up in this county. And I wrote my senior project on the need for pedestrian facilities in Bellingham in 1982. So, I've made a career out of this because it's important to me. I have the list of every person who's died on a county road since I've been county engineer on my desk. I look at it every day.
Thank you for that last answer. Really, some passion.
I mean, it's, I don't do this because I'm getting rich, folks.
Did anybody have a question about his salary? Please.
Hi, my name is Sadie. We live in Vancouver. I live in Vancouver. We decided, well, a while ago, we decided to invest in a property because we thought Point Roberts is closed and beautiful, so we'll enjoy this American side of the land. But we haven't had a very good experience. There's a ditch that goes next to our property, not next to our property. There's a property between between the ditch and our property. So I don't know why. I think this question might be for you. This ditch is coming this way and then it just stops. And then county just sort of, without letting anybody know, they just sort of turn the water into our private properties. So it's been draining into private properties for the last, I think, 50, 60 years. We didn't know that. Until our neighbor, we were not here most of the time. So he just sort of took his liberty, trespassed on our property, dug a trench, because he can't fight county, but
I believe I'm aware of the situation, yeah.
Yeah, and so he can't fight the county, but he can harass us. He can just do whatever.
It's a really unfortunate situation.
It is. We spent $5,000 on filling the ditch because, I really want to share this. In 2011, my father-in-law's younger brother was killed walking to the park.
Oh.
He was shot dead. And we do not want to. American culture is a little bit scary to us. I'm not saying every American owns guns and they kill people, but we hear so much. Every single day. 3-year-old killed his mother because they had a gun at home. And the 50 people were killed because somebody was so nice. He didn't talk. He was so nice. And then you hear he sat in a hotel and killed 50 people. So we just want to sort of stay under the radar. We don't want to create any problems. So we like it. We don't want to do that.
Sure, hold on. So, who are your new friends?
We decided to spend $5,000 of our own money and fill the ditch. Then he filed a complaint with county. We disturbed the land. We hired a lawyer. He admitted. His lawyer wrote us a letter that, oh yes, yeah, he actually said I trespassed. And we spent thousands of dollars on lawyers that we didn't have to. And who is responsible? Why? I live in Vancouver. If there is we needed speed bumps because our kids are little. So we went to the city. We said we need people drive too fast, kids play. City said we can't afford it. We don't have the money. And so they said, you have to do it. If you want to pay, we'll come do it. So we my husband went to every single house, got signatures, and so we got it done. And I understand Point Roberts doesn't have a lot of money, but why didn't the county write us a letter that we're going to drain the water on your property if you don't do anything?
Yeah. I'm aware of that situation. We can talk about it offline.
Okay,
it's very unfortunate.
I am just so frustrated. I drive to Bellingham back and forth, 2 hours to 2 hours back. It's the money and the stress and.
I feel horrible for you, and I'm aware of the situation, and we all have to follow the law of gravity.
Sorry. Yes.
I give you my card.
Thank you.
And why don't you call me, and I can even come up and meet you on the site.
Okay.
And I'm aware of that, and I would like to engage with you further.
I wanted to add one more point, because I asked them to send me records of, the area, how they decided to dig the ditch. They said, because the natural flow of the water. If your property is in the way, then there's nothing they can do. I understand that, but our property is not in the way. There's a road, and then there's a ditch, and then there's property. So that's not natural flow. Flow should go in the ditch, not into our property. So I just want,
We have a group and a team that wants to get your situation resolved. I talked to the deputy prosecuting attorney on your case just a few days ago before I came up here. Also talked with Planning and Development Services. We have compassion from where you're at. We understand that there's been some civil litigation going on with it. There's appeals going to the hearing examiner.
It's coming up.
It's in the legal system right now, and I'm hopeful that it's going to get resolved to your satisfaction coming up.
we just want to come up with a solution.
I just want you to know that we're working on it, and talking to the prosecutor's office and the public works we're doing everything we can. But as Mr. Rutan said, there's this process, and you're involved in it, and I appreciate that, and we wish you the best. We want to get it in front of the hearing examiner. It's not any of our decision anymore once it gets into that legal process, but they are aware of it, and they're committed to taking care of it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good luck today. But just feel safe amongst us. Come
I
visit
know,
more often.
I actually, you know what, I totally understand, I've never had a bad experience, you know, but
Just have a
I
quick
still
follow
want
on
to.
there.
Okay.
On a couple others, we're gonna try to get out of here around 7:30 or so, okay, please.
Very quickly, my name is Ed Suderman. We own property right next door to Sadie's property for 38 years. And I concur absolutely with what she had to say. I have a little map if you want to see how the water comes down.
I am aware of this, yeah.
The water comes down here. The rain comes from the north down the south.
I'm very aware of it.
Here's this little cul-de-sac where it turns, where the Moose Trail Road goes this way. And I'm gonna have to ask, I've been writing to the county for 4 months. I've sent statements from 6 people, including a DVD showing the pooling of water. And I'm sorry to say this, I haven't heard back now for 2.5 months. The last statement was basically, get lost, Suderman. I haven't seen it. At least he doesn't say that, he's looked at it. The water comes down from the north, all the way down Moose Trail Road. Then it turns here, and it's supposed to go all the way over here. It doesn't, it stops here because it's downhill, and it goes down there into Sadie's property, my property, and then, of course, the property might be damaged because
2 other properties.
2 other properties.
Can we get to Joe start? Can we get to Joe start?
I'm sorry I haven't gotten your things. I've responded to everything that I've had on this. So I'm sorry, but as you can hear, it is in litigation.
No, we're separate from that. Okay. Nothing to do with that. So here's my beef. I don't hear. It's indisputable. My wife Ingrid and I and my brother, we voted for 38, and his wife, 38 years. I've been writing, there are at least 2 indisputable facts. The water comes down from the Northland grade, it comes to the corner, and it doesn't go east, it doesn't drain there. It drains on her property, other neighbor's property, on our property. And your guy at the county doesn't, wait a minute, he doesn't believe me.
Yeah, it was Charles
I drove there an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, Charles
There's water there right now.
Yeah, Charles
It's going
McKenna,
south.
drainage.
You got it?
I can
Okay.
send you a video, I have a video of the rainy season where you can see.
They got it. They got it.
Yeah, so 3 more questions.
Okay, I've got 1, 2,
Thank
3, 4, 5.
Okay.
3.
I'm Kelly Ryan, I'm a resident of Point Roberts, and you got the message tonight, Lighthouse Park is important to us, the dock,
Thanks.
you know, all the different components out there that Mark spoke about in his editorial. My question is, how important is Lighthouse Park to you? Because it's disappearing. Since Telus building was removed, and the rocks was removed, and some native plants were put in, they're all now washed out.
Every weather event we have, we lose more of the shoreline. Right now, the bank is up to the trail that goes around the park. The next weather event, we're going to be losing that.
Won't be able to drive.
Yeah, yes, and as well, the park ranger won't be able to drive around like he does now. So my question is really, how important is Lighthouse Park to you, and what are you going to do to maintain it?
It is an important part to me, as all of them are. We had 22,000 square feet of boardwalk. We have 8,000 feet right now. I was just out there. I think it looks really nice. I think we get the buildings taken care of.
No.
Don't like it, we think it's ugly. It's ugly.
Oh, we missed the windbreak.
Okay.
You're missing the windbreak, missing the electricity out there, smaller than it was before. No, it's not as nice as it was.
The Orca Center is going also.
Yeah.
The Orca Center was...
You're way off when you're saying it's nicer.
Before I was even around. So
And
I
the
don't actually
Vancouver Music
remember seeing it,
Festival
so.
as a family event is gone too.
Orca Center was gone in 2016.
Was it?
Yeah, you were here.
What was that? It was part of the dock system? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. It's important to me to maintain that park as it is on the other parks. Folks, I'm telling you right now is that the money that everybody wants for everything in Washington County is not there to be able to provide everything we want. We're going to continue to do what we can. I go out to the park and it looks fine to me. I guess it's in the eye of the beholder of what you're looking at.
So next time you're out at the park, I'm the second house from the park on the south side. Stop and I'll take you for a walk.
Okay. As it relates to the shoreline, things are different than they were 30 years ago. I have a really nice cabin out at Point Whitehorn. I was having some bank erosion on it. Being county executive, I couldn't go out and fix it like my neighbors were fixing it, which is meaning that they were doing things on Saturday and Sunday mornings, and that was not appropriate for me to get involved in. I sold the property because going through and enforcing banks and maintaining shorelines and doing the things that we did 30 years ago is not possible anymore. It's not permittable. It's not permittable for the park out there, and those are things that are going to be continued challenges.
But with all climate change discussion, we hear about the funds that are going to be coming available for mitigating damage caused by climate change.
Whether you're going to get it for the Lighthouse Park or not, I don't know on that. Obviously, we have a difference of opinion as it relates to what's acceptable and what's appropriate out there. I look at it and I think that I believe, although it's not perfect, I believe that we've done a fair amount of work out on the point in the last 7 years with the 4 parks that we have. We still have continued work to do, and I want to believe in the next couple of years in the budget that we put together that we're going to continue the things, and I believe that future administrations are going to continue to use the very limited resources that they have to do what they can for you as it relates to the development of the parks on the point, along with all of the other parks that we have on the mainland.
A quick follow-up, we do appreciate the gym at Lily Point is. Learned tonight there's over 1,000 bridges in Whatcom County. As far as I know, there are not any public bridges in Whatcom County.
162.
162, right. There is none.
162, sorry.
No bridges on Point Roberts.
Any chance of getting one for the Cedar Point Trail access?
Not out of the road front, because by the road can only use on road right of ways.
So we've expressed as a community a lot of passion for what most of us think is a bit of a special place, our park system here. We're all deeply attached to it for various reasons. If there was interest in the community to join in a community-based effort to help overcome one of the issues you mentioned, which is legitimate. First of all, I recognize you don't have any money. You have my money. You have our money. So I get that, and we're very sensitive to it, and we should be. But if we were able, by way of doing some fundraising activities within the community, or doing more volunteer work in the community, would that be received by you folks as a way to improve our assets?
It would be a wonderful opportunity for us to come together in ways to improve things. We have groups of people that are building trails on our behalf, volunteer groups that are helping things out. We have projects that are of an identifiable nature that we can put a team effort together on, and this is, I believe that our Parks Department and our council, and I know that I, through the administration, would be very supportive of that. Yes.
So we may turn some of our passion into something like that?
Right.
Okay, thank you, thanks. Please.
Oh, right.
Stand up, please.
Isabel, sort of new on your behalf. With regards to the roads, I was wondering, while you're busy resurfacing the roads, if you could add about 24 inches on either side and build us bike trails on the major roads, bike paths.
Would love
A lot
to.
of people bike in the summer, it's a big thing to do, and everybody's out there, sans helmets, kids, and also it would be useful for our aging population, God forbid I should be one of them, pushing walkers, wheelchairs, using, you know, in some way needing some assistance to go for a walk down the road. Any way you could start the process
Love
with
the
your
idea.
surfacing now?
Tell you what, when I interviewed for this job 17 years ago, I said, look, county engineers, first one scratched out the county roads, then they paved them, that's all done. My job is to get shoulders on them. I gotta get paved shoulders on the road. We have 1,000 miles of high-speed road and we don't have a lot of shoulders. So I think that's a really good comment. What we're doing this summer is maintenance, we're maintaining what's there. If we were to add anything, that's no longer a maintenance project, it's a capital improvement project, and it now becomes a drainage project because I now have to bring that road up to current standards with drainage for all detention and treatment. So to add that 2-foot shoulder, I'll probably have to buy a piece of property, build a huge pond for detention and treatment to treat not only the new impervious surface, but the entire road because I have to bring it up to modern standards. So adding impervious surface to a road, you heard me say, is a huge drainage project. By the way, when we're done, there'll be some widened shoulder. But I think that's an excellent idea, and I personally have tried to encourage the PRCAC, they have this money available. I would love to be told to start at, Lighthouse Park, start putting shoulders on and go counterclockwise around until we run out of money. But I really think that's an excellent idea. Getting paved shared use shoulders on county roads.
So what's the first step? Well, how do we expedite it?
I think the first thing would be as a community to identify the highest priority areas. You have the transportation district monies, and as long as it stays adjacent to the road system, it can be utilized for that, and that would be a valid project to be able to make it happen. It's not going to go a whole long ways if you got $1 million when you start doing that, and because of what Joe was saying with the water treatment area. But that's another community decision. I think 3 years ago, a group came in and wanted to go from the Lighthouse Marine Park and around towards the marina and do that. There wasn't a whole lot of consensus that I sensed from anybody at that particular time that that's where the money could be spent at. But it's been determined many years ago that Whatcom County doesn't have enough money on our whole road system to provide an additional 2 feet on either side of them for pedestrians throughout the close to 700 miles of road that we have without shoulders. But in limited areas where we have high pedestrian counts or we can bridge certain areas that would work real well, yeah, there's opportunity to do that. But again, I would encourage the community to come together, put the plan together, bring it to us, and then put it into a work plan to make that happen.
You know Linda? Linda? You may engage with Linda, some introductions, she's engaged with.
Isabel comes to our PERCAC meetings,
Perfect.
so we're working on.
That's a great question.
That's where you go.
Another person's question as well. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Olaf Graby. I'm here to present the folks down at Maple Beach.
Annually, pretty much, we see flooding happening there. The salt water comes over the seawall. It's destroying the maple trees at Maple Beach. It's damaging the street. The wall looks like it's starting to deteriorate, and there's a lot of property damage as well. And just like to ask if you would consider working with us and the PRCAC on finding a solution.
Certainly, I actually anticipated this, and I brought the 2005 Maple Beach Point Roberts Shoreline Reach Analysis and Final Report. So this is the report that was done on that beach and gives us guidance on how we're maintaining that seawall. And I brought this up here expecting that I would meet you and provide it to you. So that can give you some sense of what...
That's the question of the night.
So you can, that'll give you a sense of the maintenance program that we have on that seawall out there and what we're doing based on that report.
And here's the request.
Excellent.
How about that? Thoughtful,
Yeah.
organized.
Very nicely done.
Joe, in Atlantic City, we had a problem very similar. And what they did is they brought in large rocks, they put them up at the edge, along the sea, where the seawall is. Filled it all in the sand, got it nice and stable, made it into a gentle slope, planted lots and lots of grass that's tolerates that circumstances. Now the water comes in, goes up, goes back down again.
Yeah.
It doesn't get smacked and throw it up over the wall, and it doesn't push all the rocks and stones north over the border where they have to be dragged back again.
Right.
5 years. Why can't that be done?
It certainly could. I would encourage you to read the report and they address things like that. Mainly it's because of the lateral drift going through there. There's just so much material.
I understand that. But
So
if you look at...
anything can be done. I'm an engineer. I can build you anything if you give me the money. So it comes down to cost. Is it a cost-effective solution? And I would encourage, I can continue that discussion with you, after you review the report and have more specific questions.
Thanks. We have 2 more questions, and you folks are doing fantastic. You've been thoughtful questions, you've been respectful of the answers, bravo. I was kind of nervous. We stopped at the...
It's not over yet.
We stopped before the golf course to meet our guests, and I didn't get in because I was taken away by 2 golf course staffers who said, "Oh my God, you're in deep doo-doo tonight." Let me tell you what I'm hearing at the golf course. And you guys, you're fantastic. 2 other questions, please.
Madeline Anderson, longtime resident of Point Roberts. I understand that there are budgetary restrictions around the room, especially on the dais. But what I'd like to know, and maybe collectively you could send a list to be published to Pat about what the priorities are for Point Roberts. What's on the agenda this coming year, and what can we look forward, other than the ditching? What can we look forward to, like improvements at any of the parks, like Maple Beach and Lighthouse Park and stuff like that? Just so we'll kind of know, and then we can perhaps make it more accountable.
Question, is there a good source of information that we can access to understand what the plans are? If you give us a good high level of them, is there somewhere we can go to learn more?
Honestly, to drill down into a 600 or 700 page county budget, it gets pretty difficult to be able to drill all of the projects down. You've heard the main ones at the Lighthouse Park and the road systems that we've got going. Sheriff is continuing to do his work, and we're going to continue to do general maintenance. That's the great bulk of the work that's going to be done here. I can definitely try to put together a more comprehensive list and publish it for everybody and drill down. I don't know what the health department is planning.
If you publish it, we'll undertake to the Voters Association to distribute it to the community. Fair?
Yeah. I know the health department is going through their health, continue to go through their health assessments. I don't specifically know what engagement they're going to have with the community up here. We've talked about planning and development services. The criminal justice system hopefully doesn't have to come up here anymore than have our good sheriffs do their work within the system. I know that there was an opportunity and a request the other day for an opportunity to enhance the food bank at the community center, and we hopefully sent this person on the right path to work with the Opportunity Council and to try to work in the same fashion that the East Whatcom community undertook for the expansion of a community center and a food bank up in Kendall. And I think that that might be a real good plan for this community if you folks wanted to come together and provide the energy and the synergy behind all of that so that you could enhance your community services working through that. They did that. Whatcom County was very supportive of that, but it was their initiative that ultimately made that happen. And right now, Whatcom County committed $400,000 to the project, and they're spending close to $2.2 million on the facility up there. That they generated the dollars through the state and through grants. And truly, folks, you guys have got just as good or a better opportunity to get money out of the state than we do as general Whatcom County government. It really ends up being community groups are well regarded in Olympia by all of the legislators, and if you have that synergy and you have your Chamber of Commerce and the PRAC and all the different agencies and different groups come together on it, it really resonates with the state in terms of funding. So a lot of good things. I'll put the list together.
Okay, thank you. You do that, we'll distribute it to the committee, to all the various social media outlets access we have.
To our council members. I have had the great pleasure of working with Jennifer over the last year or two. She's the most cooperative and responsive person I've dealt with in Whatcom County. I don't know how many people in the room are aware, though I know the two of you are aware. Point Roberts currently does not have a permanent responsible council member. There's not a member on council who is the responsible council member for Point Roberts. Ms. Frazee, I believe you and one other are temporarily sharing that role, though it's not been decided by council who will hold that position, who will take that role on. And I think with all that's been discussed, if you know the hierarchy of how things work in county government, the county executive's office is not the be-all end-all. They have to work with council, and oftentimes council presides over and makes a final determination even when the county executive's office is a proponent. And it works vice versa. So could you please expedite getting a representative for Point Roberts on council in a permanent fashion for however long that term lasts, 2 years to the next election? Because the longer we go without someone standing up in council and saying, I will take that role on, because they require someone to be responsible in the fashion that every other town and every other small hamlet, whether it be incorporated or not in Whatcom County, is afforded. Right now, we're bereft a council member. And that's a very big deal. I don't know how many people knew this, but it's a big deal. Because that's the chain of command. If you want to work your way and wind your way through all of this stuff, if you don't have somebody representing you at council and looking out for your well-being, you're dead in the water before you ever get there. So please expedite making a decision on this so that all those folks and all those committees and organizations who are going to do their damnedest to put something together and bring it to you, you're tracking it. You're assisting them as you would any other town. It's terribly important.
Okay, and there is an election this November for someone from District 5?
Yes, Coastal District.
Yeah, the Coastal District that we're representing.
Robert Brenner is still our representative.
Technically speaking, no.
Technically. And I'm at large, so I'm the whole county, so I represent you, and Barry Buchanan also represents you.
But
So,
even Jennifer
like I
said that Barbara does not actually represent Point Roberts presently. It's a shared
It was,
responsibility.
go ahead, it was divided up.
The county 2 years ago redistricted, so we went to 5 individual districts and 2 at-large positions. So it's Mr. Buchanan, Ms. Frazee are the at-large positions, so they represent you. So it's those 2 people that represent you right now. It was a multi-year process to get the council positions in line with the new ordinance. So whereas Barbara Brenner was de facto the representative for Point Roberts, she is no longer doing that. She lives in what is called the farmland district, and she has filed to run into that position. So that's Linden, North, Sumas, Everson, Nooksack, that area right there. That's the area that she will be representing. There's 2 candidates that have filed for the coastal position, and you guys are in the coastal district. So you have follow the elections. I'm up here on official county business, so I'm not going to talk politics and who they are and all that. I'm in a county vehicle, not allowed to do that. But the election is going to be this November. Filing season is May 12th through 17th, I think, this year. And it looks like there's a lot of people that are qualified and have a good amount of experience and thoughts on how the county should do it. And I'm not being facetious here, as I'm encouraging you. It'd be great to have you step up to the plate. I mean, wouldn't it be wonderful to have somebody from Point Roberts to put their name on the ballot who is willing to put the time in? And then you'd actually truly have somebody to represent you. But it's going to happen. Good comments. So at the end of the day, everybody in the county is going to have 1 representative that's going to be elected from their district and 2 at-large positions who are going to also represent them. So there will be 3 people that every resident that should have the opportunity to talk to that should be responsive to your issues. Thank you.
Allison, that was it, right?
I've got one question.
Well, Allison, is that okay?
Ken Calder, local contractor, been going to the meetings here in Point Roberts, the advisory committee for over 2 years, member of the Taxpayers Association. I'm wondering if there's a possible conflict of interest with our Chamber of Commerce and our advisory committee. Right now, the Chamber of Commerce has 5 members on their board, and 3 of them are involved with the local garbage company, collection company. And the garbage company has a contract, actually 2 contracts with the county. One being for the local transfer station, and the second for $475,000 for the curbside collection. Now, should somebody that has a contract with the county be able to be on an advisory board to advise the county? I don't.
Excuse me, I'm the president of the chamber.
Hold on, just a second. We've been doing so good. I know you're baited by the question. Just bite a little bit. Can you handle that?
Advisory committees have no direct responsibility for the signing of contracts or the official business that's going on with it. From a technical basis, I don't believe that there is any legal conflict of interest in terms of that. Could there be a perception of that if you had the wrong people in that? You may, but as it relates to I think I could probably name one of the people that you're talking about. I don't even know who the other 2 would be. So from my perspective, I don't necessarily see it, and I don't consider it at that. I think that the council does a good job with reviewing the contracts that are brought forward, and I know that I and our staff do the same thing, and that particular piece of business hasn't happened. But appreciate you bringing it up for conversation, and take a look at it. If you'd like to talk offline a bit more on it. I have heard this before, so but I don't believe that there's any legal legal challenge that you would have or that we would have in terms of that relationship at all.
Okay, so a quick thank you. Garrett, thank you for videoing. For those of you that want to watch yourself on camera later today, your voice, you can get that on YouTube. If you're so inclined to self-indulge. James, thank you. And big thank you to you folks for investing your time tonight and being